the connection is truly our ancestors. And if we look at the scriptures with a spiritual eye, what we begin to see is that there is always a connection between the ancestors. The son of David, the son of Abraham, Isaac, we are always connected. It's speaking to these principles. Look at what happened. If indeed the Father is the one who spoke to Abraham and said to Abraham, your people are getting out of hand, don't go back down there, right? Mm-hmm. When they were worshiping the golden calf. Moses, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, baby. When he said that to Moses, what was he saying? If that indeed is the Father speaking to Moses, what is he saying? He's saying to Moses, they are worshiping, they're submitting to something other than you. Think about it. You need to handle this because their submission is to something other than you. What does that mean? I have granted you privilege, opportunity, the wisdom, ability, however you want to call it. I have made these provisions for you so that you can bring balance to these people who came out of this dark place. And now they are re-entering this dark place with the attributes that they have been taught. So you have to get them in line. So Moses goes back to them, and what does Moses do? Moses finds out how this thing of worship the golden calf comes about, and they grind it up and they disperse it into the water, and the water turns the red, pure gold turns water red. So what he's saying, what's being said here is that I'm the Father. I'm the one. But you've been appointed to do this. Now, this is the kicker. We see that as the Father from the other side, or from the spiritual realm, or the creative everything that is. But the Father of which it speaks is Abraham's ancestors. That's who gave him the direction in that mountain. Abraham. The ancestor is what gave him that direction in that mountain. Wow. And the ascension that we talk about, not only with Moses, but the ascension that we talk about with Jesus into the mountain when he was tempted, those temptations, it was not. It's not the Father that we think it is. It's also, it's the ancestors. Why do I say that? Because if it were the one who created us and everything that is, then it is impossible for us to be the dominators of the earth if you will keep sticking your hand in there messing with it. We are not dominating, you doing it. You see, Harold, let me see if I can find this. When we talk about it, think about it. The concept of Abum, right? The A is gives birth, B gives birth via breath, and N, Abum, it talks about one who gives birth through his breath and creates a new form. Now, if this is true, then what Jesus did in that mountain, Jesus was not confronted by some outside entity. Jesus was confronted by his mind, and his mind was seeking to dominate his soul. And in his mind, he was thinking that I have the power to turn stones into bread if I choose to. But his soul said no. I have the power to be sustained if I leap off of this mountain. But his soul said, don't do that. You don't tempt the Father. You don't tempt your ancestors. Why? Because they are the ones who are sustaining you, and the principles that you are teaching, They are emanating with them because they see the balance that's necessary. They are now in rhythm with the universe. Prior to that, they were not in rhythm with the universe. So you are to teach the principles that brings humanity into rhythm with the universe. And now hear what I'm saying to you. Jesus did not come to change anything. Jesus came to show us how to change everything. The principles that Jesus taught were principles of how-tos as opposed to changing. Now, because if Jesus had come to change everything, then he failed miserably because balance is not with us. We are still out of rhythm. So when it talks about the being like a boon is talk about being like your ancestors are. Why is it that you don't see in the scriptures that Jacob is supposed to be like Abraham? Or why is it you don't see in the scriptures that these men who are represented by these names are not spoken of until they die? Well, think about it. Like, okay, Israel talks about being, and I'm talking about people who will be worshiping. I'm not talking about the country. They said that we are the seed of Abraham. But they did not talk about being the seed of Abraham until after transition. Okay. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah. So this idea of Esau being the one with whom Jesus communicated is not so. It's the ancestors that he created with, that he communicated with. And the ancestors, as I said, are not individual people. They are energy forces. They are pure energy forces now. And this essence is the essence that we are to be infused with. But we cannot be infused with this essence if we fail to embrace the reality of our being, and that is the reality of our being is being love itself. Now, look at this if you can. If you are loved, then you don't love anybody, they experience you. And what I mean by that is, if you embrace the idea of being loved, it is no longer within the purview of your power to choose who you're going to manifest it to and who you're not going to manifest it to. Once you embrace that, then everyone whose presence you are in experience who you are. Can you see that?
That sounds like a grandmother. The one that will say anything, discipline anyone.
Yes.
Doesn't matter who you are, how fancy or whatever, she'll set you straight. And it's never to embarrass you or make you feel bad. It is just
to bring balance. To put you in rhythm.
Or will feed you or hug you, whatever you need.
Yeah. And sometimes do nothing except look at you. And you know that look. You know? That's what I'm talking about. So can you see where we have not so much been off track as much as we have been blinded up to this point? Because nothing comes until it's time. For us to understand that the Father that we speak of is an ancestral relationship as opposed to the one who created everything that is, it's time for us to initiate the balance and bring about the rhythm that is necessary for humanity to recognize that it is not, they are not individual entities, as Janice stated earlier, but we are the same. When that happens, we no longer rip each other off. We no longer play games with each other. We no longer manipulate each other. We no longer see ugly and cute and all these other things of what we actually see as ourselves. Any questions about that? Any comments about that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the ancestors have been speaking, but we have not been hearing that. that,
Let me put it, that's one way generally, yes.
okay.
But because we have been seeking so strongly,
Mhm.
this has been hidden from us
Okay.
purposely. Let me use this in terms of war.
Okay.
There are times when you are in war, you need a long rifle, a gun, okay?
Mhm.
But when you're facing a tank, you need a missile.
Okay.
So as long as you need that rifle, you don't need that missile. And you won't get one until you need it.
Mhm.
If we can see the rifle as representing what we have been doing,
Mhm.
and now we have brought things to a different place where we need to understand that the missile comes into play. It's time for a missile. If that is tantamount to understanding that a wound is ancestors, then it is time for us to do something with that. And to do something with that is not for us to make it a to-do list, it's to make ourselves available in a different way. I see this thing clearer than I can articulate. I see this whole thing of ancestor as representative or as tantamount to the goodness, the rightness of this knowledge, this tree of knowledge, the rightness of it. That's what I see. And when we embrace that, and when we access the oneness of it all, then we are more apt to have the power. To experience the power that's necessary to bring this same awareness to humanity. What I mean by that is we can sit in this room and bring this same awareness to humanity without even having to be in the physical presence of humanity. Why? Because if we are one, then everything that we deal with reverberates throughout the universe. And if it's light that's passing through the universe, then all those things that are confused or darkness or those things that have kept mankind out of rhythm, those things they come into rhythm with the light that's reverberating in this manner. There's no question in my mind that the things that we are experiencing in what we call the arena of politics right now, we ushered that in the last time we met. So what did we say? It's time to bring this thing to an end. You see?
Yeah.
And what has happened? So this is what. So now we see what's happening. We are being shown how it happened. The source of it happening. Can you see this? Because think about it this way. When we look at the ancestors, or especially the feminine energy of it, we don't see the hatred for that if we look at it in the physical sense. We don't see the hatred that you would expect to be directed toward those who enslaved us. You don't see that. And you don't see the hatred even when someone feels like she's been jilted and shoots somebody and says she's in their own apartment type thing. You know, we don't. Philando Castillo being killed in the car, when it's live stream, a stream live rather on Facebook. We don't enter into a place of hatred. We embrace this as a necessary quote unquote evil, necessary act of unrightness in order to push us in a corner so that we are more apt to search for answers so we can bring balance to this earth, thus eliminating these events of unrightness that's directed towards those who have been brought into this earth to bring rhythm to it, yet refuse to, now forced to. Question. I see far more than what I thought is there. Go ahead.
I
could still use some clarity on the idea that you as an individual don't birth anything, that the
Okay.
ancestors birth it and you
Manifested.
manifest it.
Okay. What I mean by that is, we in this earth realm don't birth it by virtue if it originated with us. Okay? It originates with the ancestors. Why do I say that? Because we are not connected to the ancestors physically. Our connection is spiritual. So there, so there is never the separation. However, once it's birthed spiritually, we manifest it in the physical realm. And the manifestation of it in this realm is not so much based upon the human to human contact as much as it's based upon the manifestation of the principles. Because when we, excuse me, when we deal with it based upon just how we treat, how much we treat each other, we have relegated it to a human to human contact as opposed to letting it be what it is. And that is a manifestation of the principles that goes beyond human contact.
And I see why you say that, because with my mom, when I want to talk to her, I'm like, okay, you're not my mom anymore. You are either in another form or your energy that's just here. And when I have a conversation, it's not like mom and daughter. It's just having a conversation with that energy.
Let me show you
Does
something.
that make sense what
Let
I'm
me show you
saying?
something about that. The word for mom in the Hebrew is men. Men. It's in the middle of the letters. But it also means water. And without water, there's no life. So it also speaks to, if it's your mom, it's not necessarily your physical mom, as much as it is representative of the source of life.
Because I said with mine is mom, but with my soul,
It's energy.
it's energy. If that makes sense.
There is a scripture that I was looking at, and it had the word Father. And when I looked at it, it referenced men as being mom of the family, but it showed me as being the same. There's no difference between the two in terms of essence. And I thought that was something, that it was something different than I'd ever seen before. It was last week when I saw that. I'm trying to remember the first time I was looking at it when I saw it. It's funny to me that I started at the scripture.
But I'm glad you explained that, because I wonder why I would say you're not mom. You got energy, but now I see, and I appreciate you doing that.
The root from which I would come from speaks to a desire to bear fruit, to have something, to make, to be that tree that produces fruit. So when we embrace the essence of our connections or the essence of our oneness, then we have a desire to produce fruit, to produce something positive, to produce something that's life-giving. Now, you can also produce something that's threatening, because we are created. The thing that you produce is connected to your desire. Now, this is what I'm saying. Up to this point, we have had different desires at different moments. If someone comes at you out the mouth of the wrong way,